To rediscover the tribe time forgot, we have to go back to 1999 and understand where our world and the world of magic were both heading. It's also convenient because that's the same year brothers John and Damon Morris got together and started Card Kingdom. They sponsor the channel and are the best place to go online for all your magic card and gaming needs. And you can help the channel out by using the affiliate link below to let them know I sent you and to keep supporting content like this. Or show your support directly through Patreon. Really means a lot. Thank you. Now the reason I want to go back to 1999 is to revisit the hysteria around Y2K that was taking over the world. Books, TV shows, and alleged documentaries were constantly being shown and talked about to warn us of the coming apocalypse. Here in the US, President Clinton appointed this guy to make sure the world didn't come to an end, and you look back and think, was this real? Did people really think this was going to happen? And yeah, we kinda did. But all the hysteria literally disappeared overnight when the ball dropped, we entered the year 2000, and could all see the sky did not come crashing down. So the far younger version of me got back to my video games, sports, and of course card games like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. But in the Magic multiverse, this peaceful beginning to the year 2000 was simply the calm before the storm. My Magic collection consisted of a Portal Second Age box my older brother had bought me. Even then, I loved the art, though I would soon come to find Portal's artwork was the kid glove version of what awaited me in the coming sets. In the real world of Magic, it was far more frightening. Nemesis was released in early 2000 and contained cards I thought I recognized but now had a sense of evil to them. Prophecy brought more of the same, as well as some of the biggest creatures I had ever seen. But the next set, coming out in the fall of 2000, Invasion, would be my first pre-release ever. At that event I realized the Invasion was like the worst of Y2K come to life for those living on Dominaria. The game, the world of Magic, and our home plane of Dominaria would never be the same. The Invasion is where our story of the tribe time forgot begins. Something had been growing in the shadows, and from blue skies came darkness, unexpected and seemingly unstoppable. Yawgmoth, one of the most well-known villains in Magic, known as the god of the plane of Phyrexia, had been planning an attack on his homeland of Dominaria for a millennia. He wanted to turn the plane and all of its inhabitants into what he considered perfect beings. Stage 1 of this thoroughly planned attack was the Invasion, and it began as portals opened up across the plane and suddenly an armada of Phyrexian fighters descended on strategic locations across Dominaria. Inhabitants struggled to mount a defense, and any Phyrexians they did shoot down were quickly replaced by more. The Phyrexians were relentless, with wings and claws cutting through whatever they encountered. Now this isn't an accurate map of the timing we're talking about, but just to help give some context as to how the invasion was going for Yawgmoth. Benalia, Teleria, New Argive, and Urborg all succumbed to Yawgmoth's onslaught. And while there was no shortage of combat or Phyrexian soldiers to throw into it, Yawgmoth sent more than armed forces for Dominaria's defenders to deal with. From the invasion book, we hear of an infection he sent to deal with as well. It had fallen from the skies. The contagion sifted down through clear air. Minute spores trickled their way into every stoma on every leaf. A tingling numbness followed. It flowed down stems into twigs and branches and trunks. It converted all to living rot. This was not a killing plague. It was a resurrecting plague too. It killed in order to revivify the dead wood and control it. Gangrene worked a slow possession on Yavimaya. The forest life was becoming an alien unlife. However, not everything went according to plan. And to start, that's probably because I don't care how good you are at planning, you can't just attack the ocean. Yawgmoth tried to overtake the ocean with the idea he could harpoon the aquatic life from ships and turn them into his perfect beings. Then resurrecting them, I'm guessing he thought he would slowly overtake the entire ocean. Like shooting fish in a planet-sized barrel, how hard can it be? And of course he thought no one will attack our totally exposed ships just floating above the water. To Yawgmoth's surprise though, they did. And long story short, Yawgmoth was unable to subdue or transform all the marine life because the Phyrexians he sent out fishing were blown up. Score 1 for the good guys. Next was a battle over control of the only permanent planar portal that linked Phyrexia and Dominaria, located inside the caves of Koilos. Yawgmoth was planning on having uninterrupted access to it, but the fight ended in a sort of siege or stalemate, largely because the oceans were able to lend some of its forces to fight the Phyrexians and prevented Yawgmoth from utilizing the planar portal as he wanted. So we're also going to count this as another win for the defense. And lastly, the most shocking and decisive of upsets, the fight that goes the best for the defenders of Dominaria happens on Yavimaya. But how did this happen with waves of Phyrexians coming down and the contagion spreading throughout the plants and flora? How was Yawgmoth unable to gain control of such an important and strategic location? First, the ocean sent creatures difficult for the Phyrexians to quickly defeat along the coastline, which at this point should be no surprise to anyone, but as the fins, tails, and waves of the ocean crashed into the Phyrexians, more arrived to take their place. Yawgmoth would not lose this battle from a lack of soldiers. Second, on land, Multani was able to call forth the power of the Yavimaya forest and its terrain to fight the spreading contagion and Phyrexians, but as the forest fought back, it was quickly realized it would not be enough to withstand such an overwhelming force of steel, claws, and spreading rot. Yawgmoth would not lose this battle from lack of will. The most important piece of this seemingly impossible defense came from a force unknown to those defending Dominaria, unknown to Yawgmoth, a force unknown to everyone except Yavimaya itself. Lying dormant, waiting beneath Yavamaya's soil, are beasts unmatched in their ability to adapt to any environment, rarely outclassed in size or speed, and simply put, ferocious. Yawgmoth would lose this battle from lack of preparation. Even a millennia was not long enough for Yawgmoth to see the natural resistance crafted, evolved, and truly perfected by the harshness of Yavamaya's environment. This is to be one of the finest moments for the tribe time forgot, the Kavu. As Yawgmoth's forces began to decimate the Yavimaya forest, a tribe rose in its defense, awoken from their slumber to defend the land that crafted them. They tore into wave after wave of Phyrexian forces, showing off their insatiable hunger, ultimately saving Yavimaya and handing Yawgmoth his greatest defeat during the invasion. This would not end the war, and sadly the Weatherlight and someone named Karn would look to steal all or most of the credit, but before the second stage of Yavamaya's plan would begin, and as the dust and pieces of Phyrexian fighters began to settle, everyone on Dominaria could now find a glimpse of hope, thanks to the Kavu. The tribe time forgot, not anymore. I remember that pre-release quite well. All the way back in the year 2000, I remembered seeing these creatures, and I was immediately a massive fan. Kavu will always be that quintessential red and green tribe to me. No matter what other plane we go to or what other cards we see, whenever I see red and green together, it just immediately makes me think of the Kavu. And I was so excited when we got to go back to Dominaria in 2018 to relive those childhood wonder years of playing with Kavu. But fortunately, we only got one card. So, I guess my plea to you, Wizards, is more Kavu. For whatever reason, just give me the preview card. I will justify its existence in any set. No problemo. But as I began to work on this video, it got me thinking, where did the word Kavu come from? Like, how did Wizards come up with it? And the designers and artists come up with these images of these crazy looking creatures? Well, let's get into that. In the Invasion book, the word Kavu is said to be an old druid word, meaning ever watchful and carved from stone. Then I wanted to know where in the world the word Kavu is from, or may have originated, or did Wizards just make it up? After some quick Googling, found out it originates from India. A Kavu is the traditional name given to the sacred groves along the Malabar coast across southern India. These are protected by the surrounding communities because of their religious significance. They're often referred to as a Sarpakavu, which is translated to be an abode of snakes, and contain representations of Naga Raja, or the king of snakes. Seeing the artwork in shrines across different Kavus and how Naga Raja is depicted in different ways is reminiscent to how different and unique snakes are around the world, as well as the Kavu on Dominaria. But I also bring this up to take a deeper look at the wisdom shared in a story about how mankind came to live near these sacred groves in India. Prior to humans settling down along the Malabar coast, the land was so overrun with snakes, the space was uninhabitable. So the people prayed for wisdom about how to handle this situation. The powers that be granted the snakes and humans their own areas to live in harmony. The people didn't try to force the land to bend to their will. They instead listened for wisdom and understanding, and it ended in a cohesive relationship where the land provides for the inhabitants and the inhabitants care for the land. I also think it's safe to say the writers of Invasion pulled some inspiration from these sacred groves in India when creating the Kavu in the Magic multiverse. But something I appreciate even more after learning the history of the Kavus in India and the Kavu on Dominaria is the deeper wisdom shared across all the stories. about how wrong plans can go when we try to force a situation or tear something down in order to better serve our own selfish ambitions. I'm also reminded of a common idiom: pride comes before a fall. Yawgmoth thought he knew everything he needed to create perfect beings and overtake Dominaria, but Yavimaya, the Kavu, showed how wrong his approach was. So to wrap this up, it's hard to find a tribe more iconic and captivating for me than the Kavu. Back during that pre-release, I remembered seeing these six-legged, huge teeth and oddly hooved beasts, and I was immediately a fan. Kavu will forever be a tribe I look at and remember fondly, and hope to see return in any set for any reason. I like the idea that they are these beasts that I get to summon and have them feast on my opponent's puny creatures until I have them rest again, inside their deck box, not to be forgotten, but waiting for someone else who wants to show up and try and take over our domain. So here's to the Kavu, their decisive victory, and the hope we see them sooner or later in a set. Thanks for watching.